Have you ever felt like your life is quietly falling apart? Even though no one around you notices, you smile when people look. You say, "I'm fine," when your soul is screaming for help. You function, you produce, you survive. But inside, you feel like you're slowly disappearing. And here's the truth no one wants to say out loud. Sometimes the most painful suffering is the one lived in silence. That's why this video matters. Stay with me until the end, because I'm not just going to talk about pain. I'm going to show you how Carl Jung's wisdom can help you quietly rebuild your life from the inside out, without needing anyone's permission, without screaming for attention, and without pretending anymore. Then finish this sentence. I'm ready to heal the part of me that's still something that modern society has almost forgotten. Let's bring the unconscious to light together. Before we begin, I invite you to subscribe to the channel and comment below where you're watching from. Now listen closely. Jung didn't believe healing came from noise or chaos or external validation. He believed in something far more radical, the healing power of silence. But Jung teaches us something else. Before adding anything, you must first listen, because silence is not emptiness. Silence is not weakness. Silence is space, sacred space, where the soul begins to whisper what the ego tried to bury. And the first whisper is this: your life doesn't need to be fixed, it needs to be faced. That is the first principle of Carl Jung's silent transformation. Face your life as it is, not how you wish it were. Maybe it's a version of yourself you've outgrown but still cling to, out of fear. So many people try to change their lives by adding more affirmations, more goals, more hustle, more noise. Sit in the discomfort. Look at what you've been running from. Ask yourself, what's the truth I've been too busy to hear? Because silence reveals, and sometimes what it reveals, breaks you. It's the part of you you hide to survive, the anger you swallow, the grief you numb, the dreams you gave up on, to greet the broken parts with curiosity instead of shame, but only because it's showing you what you've been pretending not to see. Maybe it's the job that's been slowly killing your spirit. Maybe it's the relationship you're afraid to admit is over. Beneath every fear, there's fire. Whatever it is, Jung believed that the path to wholeness begins not with changing your circumstances, but with confronting your truth. You don't need to prove your growth to anyone, and this truth lives in your shadow. The parts of you you've exiled, rejected, or denied. Stop needing others to validate your pain. That's where real change begins. That's the second principle. Make peace with your shadow. Jung called the shadow the unconscious aspect of the personality which the conscious ego does not identify in itself. But here's the paradox. What you hide controls you. What you embrace transforms you. When you reclaim your projections, you take back your life for your delays. In other words, what you hate in others is often what you haven't yet healed in yourself, for your emotional wounds. And the more we attach to it, the more we forget what's underneath. The real you is raw, and that's where your power lives. So begin removing the mask quietly. But it can also free you. So instead of pretending to be perfect, Jung invites you to meet your mess. But you will. Your decisions will sharpen. Your peace will deepen. Because beneath every wound, there's wisdom. Beneath every silent breakdown, there's the seed of a spiritual awakening. You don't need to announce your healing to the world. And if this spoke to your soul, hit like and share this video. Someone you love might need this more than you know. You only need to turn inward and be radically honest. And here's the third principle. Withdraw projections and take your power back. How many times have you blamed others for your pain? Jung said, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. When you project your pain, you lose your power. So stop waiting for someone to apologize. Turn the mirror inward and ask, where am I giving away my power by blaming others for my inner state? That question alone can shake your whole identity. Because what you take responsibility for, you can change. And when you do this silently, without seeking applause or revenge or attention, you begin to grow something deeper. Self-respect. That quiet, unshakable knowing that you are finally becoming the person your soul came here to be. And that leads us to the fourth principle. Detach from the mask. How much of your life is spent performing? Performing strength, performing happiness, performing healing. But Jung taught that the persona, the so-so mask we wear, isn't who we truly are. It's a role, a costume. The real you isn't perfect. You don't need to announce your breakdowns on social media. You don't need to convince anyone you're evolving. You just need to be with yourself. In silence, in truth, in depth, because that's where transformation begins. And the world may not notice it at first. Your energy will shift, and soon your reality will begin to reflect the new you. Not because you shouted, but because you aligned. Before we move to the next part, leave a comment below with this phrase. My healing begins in silence. Silence is not the absence of change, it's the ground in which true transformation takes root. While the world rushes, posts, brags, and performs, something sacred happens in stillness. The shame you feel over your sensitivity, the frustration with your procrastination, the guilt about your past. And yes, it's trying to protect me in its own way. You begin to shift. You loosen the grip of inner resistance. You stop waging war against yourself and begin the sacred work of inner union. You think if you hate it enough, you'll finally overcome it. But Jung showed us the opposite. What we reject grows stronger. What we deny becomes the shadow. But in order to enter that stillness, you must be willing to face the storm within. The second principle of Carl Jung's deep inner work is this. Only what is fully accepted can be truly transformed. How often have you tried to change yourself by rejecting parts of who you are? But rarely do they stop to ask, what within me is calling it in? Jung taught that our psyche creates our reality, not in a mystical wish it and it appears kind of way, but through patterns, projections, and resonance. You attract what reflects your unconscious beliefs. The world doesn't need to see your healing for it to be real. But you do. And the most powerful transformations don't come with applause, they come with tears, with solitude, with truth. You don't want just quick fixes or Instagram quotes. You want real change. And that begins with taking action. Real transformation doesn't begin with condemnation. It begins with compassion. When you say to yourself, yes, this part of me is scared. If you carry unworthiness, you'll shrink in your career. And while you're at it, subscribe to this channel if you haven't yet. We're building something sacred here. A space for souls who are ready to rise in silence with depth and authenticity. Go inward. Change your belief and your reality changes with it. If you think your voice doesn't matter, you'll silence yourself even when truth burns inside. And here's the third principle. Know your shadow, or it will sabotage your light. The shadow isn't evil. It's the part of you that holds pain, memories, instincts, and emotions you've disowned. You start responding wisely. You begin to reclaim your power. It's the place where trauma, fear, and unmet needs go when you tell them they're not welcome. But the shadow doesn't disappear, it acts out. It chooses partners that recreate your deepest wounds. It self-sabotages your goals. Trace them back to their origin. What are they trying to protect you from? What old belief still runs your life? It whispers, "You're not enough," every time you try to rise. Because in part 3, we'll uncover how Carl Jung's concept of individuation becomes the roadmap for your personal resurrection, and will reveal how the quiet decisions you make today can realign your entire destiny tomorrow. So what can you do? Go into silence, not to run away from life, but to meet the parts of yourself you've avoided. Journal what you judge about yourself. Listen to your triggers. This isn't easy work, but Jung never promised easy, promised meaning. And when you start doing this inner shadow work, you stop reacting blindly. Now, let's talk about the fourth principle. Your outer life mirrors your inner world. People often ask, why do I keep attracting the same pain? If deep down you believe love is unsafe, you'll find partners who confirm that belief. The solution: this is why you must arrange your life in silence, not by shouting your progress to the world, but by quietly changing your relationship with yourself. Now I want to speak to you directly. If you've made it this far into the video, I know you're someone who's ready for something deeper. Pause this video right now and comment below with the word awakening. This tells me you're not just listening, you're walking this path with intention. And now, a moment of reflection. What's one belief you've carried for years that might no longer serve you? Hold that in your awareness as we move into the next part of this journey. You've already begun the silent work. You've started facing your patterns, sitting with your discomfort, stepping away from the noise. But now comes the part most people resist. The void. That quiet, uncertain space where the old is fading and the new hasn't fully arrived. In all disorder, a secret order. That void you fear. That space where nothing makes sense, where everything feels blurry and directionless. That's not failure. You stop pleasing. You stop pretending. That's reorganization. That's the psyche reshaping itself from the inside out. This is where the transformation truly deepens. You've come this far, so don't run now. Stay. Let the void teach you. The people you tried to impress didn't even see you. The dreams you chased were inherited, not chosen. The roles you played were survival masks, not soul expressions. Carl Jung said, "In all chaos, there is a cosmos." Most people panic here. They rush back to what's familiar, even if it hurt them, just to escape the silence. But you're different. Because in that void, you stop performing. Because you begin to grieve the time you spent being who you thought you had to be. It looks like reclaiming every disowned part of yourself, even the ones you were told to hide. But grief is part of the cleansing. It's the soul's way of saying, "Thank you for surviving. Now it's time to start living." And when all of that is stripped away, what's left is your truth, your raw essence, your untouched self, waiting to be remembered. This is the third principle. Let the silence strip away what is false, not with force, with presence. Because silence is not empty, it's full of answers. It says in the silence that you realize most of the life you built wasn't really yours, and that hurts. It stings. You're allowed to pause. You're allowed to feel lost. You're allowed to just be. This is where another Jungian principle emerges. Individuation is not becoming something new. It is becoming what you've always been underneath the noise. It spirals. You're not backtracking. You're integrating at a new level. Sometimes it's just you saying no to an old pattern. Silently, sometimes it's going to bed with your heart still heavy, but choosing not to abandon yourself. It circles back. It deepens. You were never meant to blend in. You were meant to become whole. And wholeness doesn't look like perfection. It looks like authenticity. It looks like truth, the anger, the sensitivity, the ambition, the softness, the fire, they're all yours. They all belong. So the silent path isn't about fixing yourself. It's about unmasking yourself. You're not walking towards some idealized version of you. You're walking back home. Let go of the pressure to always be healed, always be happy, always be... because the soul doesn't move in straight lines. And if you're still here with me, you're not just consuming content. You're transforming quietly, radically, beautifully. So if you're revisiting pain you thought you already healed, don't judge yourself. And remember, transformation isn't loud. It's not always visible. It's not fireworks and milestones. That's evolution. That's soul work. You are healing in ways that don't make sense to the world, but they make perfect sense to your spirit. And this brings us to one more truth. Not everyone will understand this version of you. When you stop explaining yourself, when you stop participating in drama, when you stop chasing validation, some people will say you've changed. Let them. You weren't born to be understood by everyone. You were born to be true. So keep walking this path, silently, fiercely, lovingly, because every day you do, you are creating a life that actually feels like yours. Not a performance, not a projection, but a true expression of your soul. You are becoming the kind of person your younger self always needed, and your future self will thank you for. Now take a breath. Feel how far you've come. You didn't abandon yourself. That is everything. If this part of the message speaks to you, let me know by liking the video and commenting with your reflection. What if everything you've been chasing has actually been trying to find you? But it couldn't, because you were too loud to hear it. We live in a world addicted to noise. Everyone's shouting their opinions. Every app demands your attention. Every moment begs to be shared, explained, justified. But the soul doesn't scream, it whispers. They happen in solitude, in stillness, in the moments where you meet your own eyes in the mirror and say, I forgive you. And to hear it, you have to quiet everything else. This is where the final and most sacred principle comes in. True transformation doesn't announce itself. It arrives in silence, through presence, through peace. Carl Jung understood that the deepest changes aren't made in front of an audience. You're not here to become a brand. You're not here to be liked by everyone. You're here to become yourself, fully, fiercely, fearlessly. And that means letting go of the need to explain your evolution. Let them think you disappeared. Let them think you've gone quiet. Let them think you've changed. Because you have. They weren't there when you cried in the dark. They didn't feel the weight of your loneliness. They didn't witness the nights you almost gave up, but didn't. The days you chose peace over proving yourself, and if the world doesn't understand the depth of that, that's okay. Only you did that. Only you kept going. That's the silent miracle no one talks about. The quiet victories. The mornings you got up without motivation. The boundaries you set when your voice shook. You need to become so aligned with your soul that your purpose can recognize you. And now, something incredible is happening inside of you. Not loudly. That's strength. That's healing. That's real. Not publicly, but powerfully. You're changing the entire trajectory of your life without telling anyone. So here's the final truth Jung would want you to understand. You don't need to seek your purpose. You don't need to beg the universe. You don't need to rush divine timing. You don't need to perform your pain for permission to heal. You're already worthy of peace, worthy of love. But something is. Your nervous system is recalibrating. Your inner child is softening. Your mind is decluttering. Your heart is worthy of rest beginning again. And here's what most people don't know. The deeper you go into yourself, the clearer the world becomes. Place your hand over your heart, feel its beat, because healing your inner chaos quiets the external noise. Because knowing yourself makes you immune to manipulation. Because choosing your truth sets you free from every lie you were told. The silent path isn't easy, but it's sacred. So if you're walking it right now, I want you to know, I see you, I honor you, and you're not alone. Right now, you might feel like nothing's changing, and that you're one of the rare ones walking this path with grace. And when you emerge, because you will, it will feel like rebirth, not to who you were, but to who you were always meant to be. Now, take this moment, that your rhythm, that's your sacred compass. You don't need to fix everything today. You just need to keep choosing yourself. Quietly, gently, unapologetically. The world might never give you permission to rest, to feel, to heal. So give it to yourself. And if this message has touched your soul, here's what I want you to do. Leave a comment with the secret phrase, "The silent soul awakens," to let me know you watched until the end, like this video, so it reaches more people who are silently suffering and searching. Share it with someone who needs to know that their healing doesn't need to be loud to be real. And most importantly, take this final question with you. Have you ever felt like your true self was waiting quietly behind the noise? And what would happen if you finally let them lead? Because that's where your power lives. Not in the chaos, but in the silence.